Welcome to Northeast Asia, the region that hosts world's second, fourth, and 14th largest economies according to the IMF World Economic Outlook from October 2025. China, Japan, and Korea. These powerhouses collectively account a quarter of global GDP. Their supply chains are interwoven and their financial markets are deeply linked. However, this economic interdependence coexists with a fraught history and persistent geopolitical tensions. This Northeast Asia is a region characterized, defined by a great paradox: immense shared prosperity threatened by constant political friction. Hi, I'm Ida de Leon, and in this four-part video series, we're going to explore the framework created to manage this paradox within the Trilateral Cooperation between China, Japan, and the Republic of Korea. How it has survived decades of volatility, what are the results that it has delivered, what does its future mean for Asia and the world. This is the fourth and final video of our series. I will talk about building collective identity, cultural education, and health. We have examined the institutional anchor and the essential economic engine. We have explored the difficult political divisions, and now we turn to the final and perhaps most challenging pillar: shared culture, which encompasses education, health, and people to people exchange. This is the realm of soft power. While trade deals and diplomatic summits are managed by governments, true lasting stability must ultimately be rooted in the people, in mutual understanding, trust, and a sense of shared regional identity. The core mission here, championed by the TCS Sociocultural Affairs Department, is not about erasing differences, but about building functional bridges to mitigate the historical mistrust we discussed in video 3. The logic is simple. The more China, Japan, and Korea understand about each other's societies, the harder it is for political tensions to escalate into crisis. To truly appreciate the cultural pillar, we must acknowledge the deep historical ties that predate modern politics. The idea of cooperative trilateral relations is not merely a modern invention. A perspective of ancient history and cultural proximity casts a positive light on the relationship. For millennia, these three cultures have been fundamentally linked. They share foundational elements rooted in Confucianism, Mahayana Buddhism, and a common script history. They are ancient traditions of trilateral trade and intercultural exchange that span centuries. This shared cultural heritage is the silent underlying common ground. However, this proximity is a double edged sword. It means that while the common cultural foundation is strong, the historical grievances are also intensely personal and emotionally charged. The purpose of the trilateral cultural pillar, therefore, is to help reconcile this historical intimacy with modern political distance, to use the shared heritage to build a more resilient future. This foundation is essential As far back as 2004, the three countries agreed upon the need to formalize this process, prioritizing 14 cooperative fields to guide their collective efforts in building a common identity and resolving historical issues. And this leads to the specific mechanism they use to achieve this. Cultural diplomacy is one of the most visible and consistent Cultural diplomacy is one of the most visible and consistent elements of this cooperation. The Trilateral Ministerial Meeting on Culture has been a key mechanism for decades, leading to a host of successful public projects. One of the most successful is the annual Culture City of East Asia initiative. Since 2014, one city of each three countries is selected to host a year long series of arts and cultural exchange events. This deep grassroots cooperation injects trilateral culture directly into municipal and community. This deep grassroots cooperation injects trilateral culture identity into municipal and community life, exposing millions of citizens to the traditions of their neighbors. Beyond the arts, the Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat actively managed the Trilateral Journalist Exchange Program. This initiative brings reporters for this initiative brings reporters from the three countries together to travel, study, and report in each other's capitals. Which, why is this critical? Because national media plays a huge role in spiraling. Because national media plays a huge role in shaping public opinion. By encouraging cross cultural media interaction, the program aims to foster more nuanced, balanced, and fair reporting, moving away from nationalist narratives. Beyond the headline grabbing cultural events, the trilateral process also places immense value on intellectual and academic cooperation. This is the subtle, high impact realm of policy influence and opinion shaping. The Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat, in fact, has an explicit mandate to explore cooperative projects and conduct research. This isn't just for bureaucratic paperwork. It means the Secretariat actively commissions studies and hosts forums to generate new ideas for cooperation effectively, acting as an intellectual incubator for the trilateral relationship. South Korea, in particular, has consistently contributed intellectual leadership to the trilateral framework, often proposing new initiatives and concepts. This intellectual work helps steer the agenda away from bilateral conflicts and toward shared regional problems. This intellectual work is formalized through platforms like the International Forum for Trilateral Cooperation. While we mentioned it in video 1, it's worth noting that its critical role here. This forum annually brings together hundreds of leading scholars, journalists, and former officials. It allows for frank discussion on sensitive topics like trade disputes or security in an unofficial capacity. The ideas generated here often feed directly into the governmental ministerial meetings, providing diplomatic solutions that might otherwise be impossible to achieve in a formal political setting. The collective goal is to use this soft power network The greater the societal and intellectual interdependence, the greater the pressure on politicians to cooperate rather than conflict. The future of trilateral cooperation rests on the shoulders of the next generation. The education pillars is designed to foster or a cohort of young people who view their neighbors not as rivals but as essential partners. A flagship program is Campus Asia, collective action for mobility program of university students in Asia, launched over a decade ago. Campus Asia is a consortium of leading universities across the three nations. It facilitates student exchanges, joint degree programs, and academic credit transfers, enabling thousands of students to experience long term academic immersion in neighboring countries. That direct exposure fundamentally changes perceptions, building what is often called a regional collective identity from the bottom up. The TCS also sponsors the Trilateral Youth Exchange Network, hosting sports tournaments, art camps, and hackathons. These seemingly simple events have profound long term significance, creating personal ties and networks that will be carried forward by future leaders and policy makers. Another crucial area of social cooperation is public health. This is a classic example of how low politics areas that offers high impact cooperation, especially given the density and interconnectedness of the region. The three nations hold regular health ministers' meetings to coordinate on shared demographic challenges. All three are grappling with rapidly aging populations, a phenomenon that requires shared policy solutions on elderly care, pensions, and long term medical services. They also cooperate on controlling infectious diseases, coordinating on efforts on avian flu, and more recently, managing the fallout of the COVID-19 pandemic. During the pandemic, for example, the trilateral dialogue meetings proved vital. They ensured the continued exchange of medical supplies, shared clinical experience, and worked to maintain essential supply chain logistic for medical equipment and food, even as borders tighten. The quick, practical response to the public health emergency showcased the essential utility of having institutional channels already in place. The utility of the public health mechanism was dramatically proven during the COVID-19 pandemic. Faced with a shared existential threat, the three countries were compelled to coordinate rapidly. The trilateral framework facilitated crucial joint efforts on pandemic response and regional governance. This went far beyond simply sharing data. It involved coordinating border controls to maintain essential flows of goods, ensuring that trade in medical supplies and food could continue despite global lockdowns. They shared clinical research and policy approaches for containing the virus, using the established channels of health minister meetings to ensure a quick, coordinated regional response. Beyond a crisis, a major focus is the collective challenge of demographic change. China, Japan, and the Republic of Korea all face some of the most rapid and dramatic population aging in the world. Their health ministers are constantly sharing policy blueprints on sustainable social security systems, innovative healthcare care, technologies for the elderly, and methods to manage the rising costs of long term care. This is a quiet, non political cooperation that will define the quality of life for billions of citizens. This ongoing practical cooperation in health demonstrates a core feature of the trilateral process. Areas of non controversy can deliver high value results that strengthen the habit of cooperation, making political breakdowns less likely. We have now mapped the entire trilateral cooperation structure, the TCS as the institutional core, the economy as the engine of prosperity, politics as the realm of necessary difficult dialogue, and culture as the foundation of future trust. The cooperation is an unprecedented experiment in modern diplomacy, an attempt to manage the world's most profound economic interdependence alongside deep historic geopolitical fault lines. It's not an alliance, and it's frequently unstable, but its persistency is its success. It proves that the shared interest in stability and prosperity is currently strong enough to consistently pull the nations back to negotiation tables, no matter how tense bilateral relations become. Ultimately, the success of the trilateral cooperation and the fate of Northeast Asia will be determined by a single summit or a single treaty. It will be determined by the cumulative weight of all these interactions, the movements of goods, the meetings of ministers, and the growing sense of shared community fostered by millions of students, journalists, and citizens participating in the slow, painstaking but essential work of building a shared culture. Up to this moment, we have finished the analysis of the Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat. However, recently it's having an existential crisis due to the diplomatic crisis between China and Japan over Taiwan. This is a very interesting topic because I want to know the outcome of all of this since they are having these provocations that undermines the foundation of the diplomatic normalization between China and Japan. These tensions have reached the point that a Japanese singer was taken away from their show in Shanghai. South Korea is in the middle of this diplomatic encounter because Japan is its security ally, but China is their largest trading partner. If you want to discuss further about this topic, if you have any comments or you have heard about something related, please don't doubt to comment and I would love to talk about this further than I already did. Thank you for joining me in this journey through the Trilateral Cooperation Secretariat.